everyone, it's Jared from Ice Locust. I'm hoping everybody's staying safe with this COVID-19 pandemic going on, and I thought this would be a good time to follow what Christian Henson was saying and do some nerding for the weekend. Basically, what I did is I took some samples that I recorded from last summer, and now that I have a bit of time, I went and I made it into my first Kontakt instrument that I'm going to be submitting to Pianobook. Basically what I did was I took two sounds. One was of a milling machine from work, and the other one was a sound of a pot lid that I hit with a wooden spoon. And I combined them, and I did some crazy stuff to them, and I hope you enjoy what I came up with.
So my day job is a mechanical engineer who does metal 3D printing. So I build stuff out of titanium and other super alloys for aerospace and medical parts. So I was sitting at work and I was at my desk and I heard this screeching sound and I was like, what is that? So I went out to the machine shop and here one of the machinists was trying some new settings on one of the milling machines. So I went out to the 3-axis milling machine and here he's dialing some stuff and then here's like, basically the machine was making this really cool screeching sound. I'm like, oh, I gotta record this. So I pulled out my phone and he probably thought I was weird, but that's okay, I got this cool sample. So this is the machine that makes the sweet music that we have in our sample. So when I listened back to the sample, I noticed the dialing sound, and I didn't really want to focus on the dialing sound. I wanted to focus on the actual screech of the milling machine. So I went and I EQ'd out the frequencies of the dialing from the machinist. When I started playing with the samples in Kontakt, my experience in Kontakt isn't that much because I've only been doing this for a little bit, but I was having trouble getting a sound that I really liked. I wanted to have like a granular sound, so I was fooling around with the time and tone machine settings, but I couldn't find anything that I really liked in Kontakt. So what I did instead is I went and I brought it into Arturia Pigments 2.0, and that was really cool because I could do some granular synth stuff that is a lot easier to control with their user interface. The main things that I did in Pigments with the milling machine sound was I used a granular synth engine that they have, and I used their triangular shaped grain envelope with a slow ramp, and then I also had a comb filter on top of that sound. I liked how the granular milling machine was sounding, but I thought it was missing something. I'm like, oh, it needs something else. It needs some sort of higher end tone to make it more melodic, not just sort of a growling sound that it is. That's when I brought in one of my favorite sounds that I had sampled. I recorded hitting a pot lid with a wooden spoon using my SM57 microphone, and I just love the way it turned out. It sounds like a bell when you put it into Kontakt. In Pigments, you could actually bring in two samples at once and play them as separate sampled engines. So I thought, why not? I'll make a granular synth out of the pot lid. I put a triangular grain envelope on the pot lid as well, with a slightly shorter ramp time than the milling machine scream. And also for the filter, I used a phaser. I love how both granular synth engines mixed together their two sounds, and it just came out awesome. And I was like, oh, I wish I could do this in Kontakt. So I posted a question on the Pianobook website asking about the limitations of granular synth in Kontakt and how can I sort of get around this. Someone responded and said, well, if I like the sound from Pigments and I don't mind losing the control, why don't I record the output from Pigments as a sample and then bring that into Kontakt? I thought, that's an interesting idea. I can do that. So what I did is I actually sampled the output on every fifth note, starting at C0 and then moving my way up across the whole keyboard. What I liked about sampling the fifths is that I could go and use each of the fifths, use that sample, and then use that same sample for 3 half steps above and 3 half steps below. And that way, when I used the Time Machine Pro feature in Kontakt, it wouldn't have to stretch so hard when it was trying to change the pitch but keep the speed the same. Next, I put a low-pass 6 filter on the sample, and I went and I assigned CC1, or the mod wheel, to be able to control the frequency cutoff of the low-pass filter. And I thought that sort of was a nice little touch for when you're playing and you dynamically just want to change it from a sort of a low drone sound up into a more higher grinding sound, if that makes any sense. On top of the regular envelope, I went and I put a modulation in here of a sine wave LFO at 0.25 hertz. So every 4 seconds it would cycle through, and this was to add a little bit of more movement side to side. I had the sound panning from side to side just to make it a little more interesting for a sort of a stereo image type effect. To finish off the sound, I went and I used a chorus effect just to sort of jazz things up a bit. And then I went and I finished it off with a little bit of splosh. I used a convolution reverb with just a generic big hall tail on it. So this is just one chord. Since the whole purpose of me bringing these sounds into Kontakt was to share it with the Pianobook community, I thought it has to look legit, so I should probably do a GUI. And I have never done a GUI in my life, and I thought, oh, I should really learn this. So I went and I spent an evening watching YouTube videos and reading the KSP manual, and I think it turned out okay. I went and basically put some knobs on there to map out the envelope, and I had a nice little background with a cool logo, and it sort of matches the name of my channel of ice locusts. I have sort of a glacier in the background. I get a little bit distracted every time I look at the GUI because I actually took this picture. That's on Franz Josef Glacier, and I took a helicopter up and we landed on the glacier, and I got to walk around on it. So every time I see the GUI, I sort of, it reminds me of New Zealand, and I'm like, oh, that was really nice. Finally, I had to name this virtual instrument, and I thought, okay, it's made from the sound of a milling machine, and it's made from the sound of a pot lid, and it's a drone. So I guess I'll call it Millpot Drone Space. And I thought, it has sort of a interesting, cool sort of name to it.
So I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of the instrument I made in Kontakt. So feel free to download it from Pianobook and try it out and use it on your own compositions, and let me know what you think of it. Also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe and ring the bell on my YouTube channel, and follow me on Instagram. It'd be great to have you along on my sonic journey. So keep on nerding for the weekend and stay safe.